The question that would change everything came from the smallest, most unexpected source. Eliza Monroe had worked at the convenience store inside Grand Central Terminal for 3 years. She'd seen thousands of faces, commuters rushing to catch trains, tourists clutching maps, business people with phones pressed to their ears. She'd learned to read the rhythm of the station, the ebb and flow of humanity that never truly stopped, even at 3 in the morning. But she'd never seen a 9-year-old Korean boy standing alone at her counter at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday, tears streaming down his face, asking in broken English, "Can you take me home?" What Eliza didn't know, what she couldn't possibly know, was that this child's father was searching for him with the full force of New York's Korean underworld. That by the time she brought the boy to the address he half remembered, she would be standing face to face with Jin-Woo Park, the most dangerous man in Manhattan, and that this single act of kindness would pull her into a world she never knew existed, changing 3 lives forever. The question wasn't just, "Can you take me home?" It was, "Will you step into my world?" And Eliza, with her kind heart and strong hands, had already said yes. Eliza's shift was supposed to end at midnight. She'd been counting down the hours, her feet aching in her worn sneakers, dreaming of the hot shower waiting in her small Harlem apartment. The store was nearly empty, just her, the fluorescent lights humming overhead, and the distant echo of announcements over the terminal's speakers. Then the door chimed. She glanced up from her phone and froze. A child stood in the entrance, small and alone. He couldn't have been more than 9 years old, wearing an expensive-looking navy blazer and pressed slacks that seemed too formal for a Tuesday night. His black hair was neatly combed, but slightly disheveled, and his face, round with youth but already showing the promise of sharp features, was streaked with tears. Eliza's maternal instincts kicked in immediately. She came around the counter, her exhaustion forgotten. "Hey, sweetie, are you okay? Where are your parents?" The boy looked up at her with dark eyes swimming in tears. He said something in Korean, his voice small and frightened. Then, switching to heavily accented English, he managed, "Please, can you take me home?" Eliza's heart clenched. She crouched down to his level, her voice gentle. "What's your name, baby?" "Min-Jun," he whispered. "Everyone. Call me MJ." "Okay, MJ, I'm Eliza." She kept her tone calm, non-threatening. "Do you know your address, your phone number? Can you call your parents?" MJ shook his head frantically. "No phone. I ran away, but now I don't know how to get home. I tried to remember, but—" His English deteriorated as panic set in, Korean words tumbling out between English phrases. "My father will be so angry. He doesn't. He doesn't have time for me. But I just wanted. I wanted." He broke down completely then, sobbing into his hands. Eliza pulled him into her arms without thinking, and he clung to her like she was his only anchor in a storm. Over his small shaking shoulders her mind raced. This child was clearly from a wealthy family. His clothes alone probably cost more than her weekly paycheck, but he'd run away. From what? From whom? "Shh, it's okay, baby. It's okay." She rubbed his back, feeling how thin he was beneath the expensive jacket. "Do you remember anything about where you live? The street name, what the building looks like?" MJ pulled back, wiping his eyes with his sleeve. Upper East Side. Big building. Black and glass. Father's name on the... He gestured, struggling for the word. "The sign? The mailbox?" He nodded eagerly. Park Tower." Eliza pulled out her phone and quickly searched Park Tower, Upper East Side. Several results came up, but one stood out. A luxury residential building on East 72nd Street, its sleek black glass facade gleaming in the photos. "Is this it, honey?" MJ leaned in, his face lighting up with recognition and relief. Yes, that's it." Eliza should have called the police. That would have been the sensible thing to do, but looking at this scared, crying child who'd asked her specifically to take him home, something in her couldn't do it. She thought of her own childhood in foster care, how terrifying it had been when strangers in uniforms had shown up, how alone she'd felt. "All right, MJ, I'll take you home." She made her decision and stood, extending her hand to him. "But first, let me close up the store and tell my manager what's happening, okay?" His small hand slipped into hers, and he looked up at her with such trust, such relief, that Eliza felt her throat tighten. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you, Miss Eliza." 20 minutes later, they were in a cab heading uptown. MJ sat close to her, his hand still gripping hers. As they drove through the late-night Manhattan streets, he started talking, small disconnected pieces of his life tumbling out in his limited English. "My mother died when I was born," he said quietly, staring out the window. "Father says I look like her, but he doesn't look at me much. Always working, always busy." Eliza's heart ached. "Is that why you ran away? Because you wanted his attention?" MJ nodded. "I thought, if I was gone, maybe he would notice. Maybe he would care." His voice cracked. "But then I got scared and lost, and I didn't know what to do." "Oh, sweetheart," Eliza squeezed his hand. "Your father cares, I promise you he cares. Sometimes grown-ups they forget to show it the right way." The cab pulled up in front of Park Tower, and Eliza's eyes widened. The building was even more impressive in person, a towering structure of black glass and steel that seemed to pierce the night sky. A doorman in an immaculate uniform stood at the entrance, and everything about the place screamed wealth and power. She paid the driver and walked MJ to the entrance. The doorman's eyes went wide the moment he saw the boy. "Minjun!" He immediately pulled out a radio, speaking rapidly in Korean. Before Eliza could process what was happening, the elevator doors opened and 3 men in dark suits emerged. They moved with coordinated precision, their eyes scanning the lobby, hands inside their jackets in a way that made Eliza's survival instincts scream danger. And behind them stepped a man who made time itself seem to stop. He was tall, at least 6'2", with a lean, powerful build, evident even through his perfectly tailored black suit. His white dress shirt had exactly 4 buttons undone, revealing a tanned chest and the beginning of an intricate tattoo that snaked up the side of his neck. A Korean dragon rendered in black ink, its tail disappearing beneath his collar. His sleeves were rolled to his forearms, showing toned muscles and more ink tracing his skin. His face was all sharp angles, high cheekbones, a strong jaw, a straight nose, and his eyes, dark and intense, swept the room before landing on MJ. The fear and fury in those eyes were so raw, so visceral, that Eliza took an involuntary step back. Question answered. This was MJ's father, but a new question rose immediately in its place, chilling and undeniable. Who exactly was this man? And what had she just walked into? Want to know what happens next? Keep watching. "Appa!" MJ's cry broke the frozen moment. He released Eliza's hand and ran toward his father, his small legs carrying him across the marble lobby. Jinwoo Park dropped to one knee, catching his son in his arms. For a fleeting second, the terrifying mask cracked. He held MJ tightly, his eyes squeezed shut, one hand cradling the back of the boy's head. He murmured something in Korean, words too quiet for Eliza to hear, but heavy with emotion she could feel from across the room. Then he opened his eyes. The vulnerability vanished, replaced by cold assessment. His gaze fixed on Eliza with an intensity that made her feel pinned, examined, catalogued. One of the suited men moved toward her, but Jin raised his free hand slightly, stopping him without a word. He stood, MJ still in his arms, and walked toward her. Each step was measured, predatory. Everything about him radiated power and danger. The way he moved, the way the other men deferred to him, the way the air itself seemed to shift around him. "You brought him home." His voice was deep, accented, and completely controlled. He spoke English fluently, but with the precise diction of someone who'd learned it as a second language. Eliza lifted her chin, refusing to be intimidated, even as her heart hammered against her ribs. He was alone at Grand Central, scared and crying. I couldn't just leave him there. Something flickered in Jin's eyes, surprise perhaps that she wasn't cowering. "You could have called the police. He asked me to take him home, not to call the cops, so I took him home." She glanced at MJ, who was watching her from his father's arms. "That's what you do for a scared kid." Jin studied her for a long moment. "What's your name?" "Eliza Monroe." "Eliza Monroe," he repeated as if filing it away. "You work at Grand Central?" "The convenience store near Track 32. He nodded slowly, then switched to Korean, speaking quietly to MJ. The boy responded, his words tumbling out in a rush. Jin's expression remained impassive, but Eliza noticed the way his jaw tightened, the slight narrowing of his eyes. When MJ finished, Jin looked back at Eliza. He says you were kind to him, that you held his hand and told him everything would be okay. His accent made the words almost lyrical despite their weight. He says you made him feel safe. Eliza shrugged, suddenly uncomfortable under that penetrating stare. Any decent person would have done the same. No. The word was definitive. They wouldn't have. He shifted MJ in his arms. You brought my son home safely when you didn't have to, when it would have been easier, smarter, to hand him over to authorities. His eyes bored into hers. Why? The question hung between them, weighted with more than curiosity. Eliza sensed this was some kind of test, though she didn't understand the rules. She answered with simple truth. Because I know what it's like to be a scared kid who feels alone, and I wouldn't wish that feeling on anyone. Something shifted in Jin's expression, so subtle she almost missed it. He set MJ down gently, keeping one hand on the boy's shoulder, and pulled out his phone. He typed something with his free hand, then looked back at her. What you did tonight. I don't forget debts. How much do you want? Eliza blinked. What? Money. How much? He said it matter-of-factly, as if purchasing people's kindness was a normal transaction. Anger flared in Eliza's chest. I don't want your money. I helped your son because it was the right thing to do, not because I wanted a reward. Jin's eyebrows rose slightly, the first real expression of surprise. Everyone wants something. Not from you, I don't. Eliza turned toward the door. I'm glad he's home safe, that's all that matters. Wait. The command in his voice made her pause despite herself. She glanced back. Jin was watching her with that same intense assessment, but now there was something else in his expression. Calculation mixed with what might have been respect. You don't know who I am, do you? He asked quietly. Eliza shook her head. Should I? A ghost of something, amusement perhaps, flickered across his face. Most people in this city know my name, or at least they know to stay away from anyone associated with it. A chill ran down Eliza's spine. She looked at the men in suits again, really looked at them this time, the way they stood, the bulges under their jackets, the cold professionalism in their eyes. The pieces clicked together with sudden terrifying clarity. Oh my God, she whispered. You're Jinwoo Park, he confirmed. Some people call me Jin, others. He paused, his eyes never leaving hers. Others call me the Dragon of Manhattan, the Korean Mafia. Eliza's mouth went dry. She'd heard rumors, whispers about the Korean organized crime syndicate that controlled significant parts of the city's underground economy. Protection rackets, high-end gambling, strategic business partnerships that walked the line between legal and not. And this man, this terrifyingly beautiful, dangerous man holding his son, was at the top of that dark pyramid. I should go, Eliza managed, her voice steadier than she felt. Yes, Jin agreed, but he didn't move, didn't signal his men to let her pass. But first, understand this. You helped my son tonight. That means you're under my protection now, whether you want it or not. No one touches you. No one threatens you. You have a problem, you call this number. He held out a business card, sleek black with silver embossed lettering. Eliza stared at the card but didn't take it. I don't need protection. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. His voice dropped lower, intimate and dangerous. But in this city, everyone needs protection eventually. Take it. Against her better judgment, Eliza took the card. Their fingers brushed and she felt a jolt, awareness, danger, something electric she couldn't name. She pulled back quickly, tucking the card into her pocket. Can I go now? She asked. Jin nodded. One of his men immediately moved to escort her out. But as Eliza walked toward the door, MJ's small voice called out, Miss Eliza. She turned. The boy had pulled away from his father and was running toward her. He threw his arms around her waist, hugging her tightly. Thank you, he said in English, then added something in Korean. Eliza hugged him back, her heart melting. You're welcome, sweetheart. Be good for your dad, okay? Over MJ's head, her eyes met Jin's. He was watching them with an expression she couldn't decipher. Intense, almost hungry, but shot through with something that looked almost like pain. Then MJ pulled back and returned to his father, And the moment was broken. Eliza walked out of Park Tower into the cool Manhattan night, her mind spinning. She'd just met the Korean mafia's most powerful boss. She should be terrified. She should throw away his card and forget this night ever happened. So why couldn't she stop thinking about the vulnerability she'd seen in his eyes when he'd held his son? Why couldn't she forget the way MJ had clung to her, desperate for kindness? And why did she have the strange, undeniable feeling that this wasn't the end of their story, but only the beginning? But the real question was one she couldn't answer yet. What did Jinwoo Park really want from her? And why couldn't she shake the feeling he'd already decided? 3 days passed. Eliza tried to return to her normal life, working her shifts at the store, taking the subway home, watching Netflix in her cramped apartment. But normalcy felt like a costume that no longer fit. Every time her phone buzzed, her pulse jumped. Every time the store door chimed, she looked up expecting something. Someone. The black business card sat on her nightstand. She hadn't thrown it away, hadn't called the number either. It just existed. A small rectangle of expensive cardstock that represented a door she knew she shouldn't open. On the 4th day, a woman walked into the store during Eliza's afternoon shift. She was Korean, middle-aged, dressed in an elegant pantsuit that screamed wealth and taste. She approached the counter with a polite smile. Eliza Monroe. Her English was perfect, unaccented. Eliza's guard went up immediately. Who's asking? My name is Mrs. Cho. I work for Mr. Park. She set an envelope on the counter. He asked me to deliver this personally. Eliza stared at the envelope. Cream-colored, expensive paper, her name written in elegant script across the front. I don't want his money. It's not money, Miss Monroe. It's an invitation. Mrs. Cho's smile remained pleasant but professional. Mr. Park would like to speak with you. At your convenience, of course. About what? That's between you and Mr. Park. Mrs. Cho glanced around the store, at the flickering fluorescent lights, the scuffed linoleum floor, the ancient register, though I suspect you might find the conversation beneficial. After Mrs. Cho left, Eliza opened the envelope. Inside was a single card with an address in the financial district and a time, Saturday, 2 p.m. Below, in the same elegant handwriting, please come. MJ has asked for you every day since you brought him home. Jin. Those last 5 words broke through every wall Eliza had tried to build. MJ has asked for you. That sweet, lonely little boy wanted to see her. How could she say no to that? Saturday arrived too quickly. Eliza stood outside a gleaming office building in the financial district, her reflection staring back at her from the glass facade. She'd worn her best, a simple navy dress and cardigan, her natural hair pulled back in a neat bun. She looked professional, respectable. She didn't look like someone who belonged in a mafia boss's office. The elevator ride to the top floor felt endless. When the doors opened, she stepped into an office that took her breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Manhattan, the city sprawling below like a kingdom. The space was decorated in sleek modern style, black leather, chrome, dark wood. Everything screamed power and money. Jin stood by the windows, his back to her. He wore dark slacks and that same white shirt, 4 buttons undone, sleeves rolled up. The dragon tattoo on his neck seemed to shimmer in the afternoon light. He turned as she approached, and the intensity of his gaze made her steps falter. You came. He sounded surprised, pleased. You said MJ was asking for me. A slight smile touched his lips. The first real smile she'd seen from him. It transformed his face, making him look younger, less dangerous. He hasn't stopped talking about you. Miss Eliza held my hand. Miss Eliza told me it would be okay. Miss Eliza smelled like vanilla and cinnamon. Eliza felt her cheeks warm. He's a sweet kid. He is. Jin's expression sobered. He's also desperately lonely. I didn't realize how lonely until he ran away. He moved toward her, each step deliberate. Do you know why he ran? Eliza met his eyes. He said he wanted your attention. Jin flinched as if she'd struck him. Yes, he wanted my attention. He stopped a few feet away, close enough that she could see the fine lines around his eyes, the shadow of stubble along his jaw. I've spent 9 years building an empire, thinking I was securing his future, I didn't realize I was losing his present. The raw honesty in his voice surprised her. This wasn't the cold, controlled man from Park Tower. This was a father confronting his failures. "Why am I here, Mr. Park?" "Jin," he corrected. "And you're here because I have a proposition for you." Eliza crossed her arms, defensive. "I already told you." "It's not money," Jin interrupted. "It's a job." She blinked. "What?" "I want you to work for me. Specifically, I want you to take care of MJ." He held up a hand before she could protest. "Let me finish. In one night, you gave my son something I haven't been able to give him in 9 years. You made him feel safe, cared for, seen." His jaw tightened. "I've had nannies, tutors, staff. They all do their jobs competently, but none of them have connected with him the way you did." "I'm not a professional nanny," Eliza protested. "I work in a convenience store. I don't have qualifications or—" "You have the only qualification that matters. You care." Jin moved closer, his presence overwhelming. "I've watched the security footage from that night. The way you held his hand, the way you spoke to him, the way you hugged him when he was scared. That's not something you can train, that's who you are." Eliza's mind raced. Work for a mafia boss. Take care of his son. It was insane, dangerous, completely— "The salary would be triple what you make now," Jin continued, reading her hesitation. "Plus benefits, healthcare, dental, vision, paid vacation. Your own room in the penthouse if you choose to live in, or I'll cover rent for an apartment closer to Park Tower if you prefer your own space." Triple her salary. She could pay off her student loans, move out of her cramped apartment, have savings for the first time in her adult life. The practical part of her brain screamed that this was too good to be true. The emotional part whispered about MJ's small hand in hers, his tears, his desperate need for connection. "What exactly would my responsibilities be?" she asked carefully. "Taking care of MJ. Making sure he eats properly, gets to school, does his homework. Spending time with him, genuine time, not just supervision." Jin's expression softened. "Teaching him that adults can be trusted to care, that he matters to someone beyond his role as my heir." "And what about your business?" Eliza gestured vaguely. "Would I be expected to—" "No." The word was absolute. "You would have no involvement in my business affairs. Your only concern would be MJ's well-being. My world stays separate." "Can you really promise that? If you're who people say you are?" "I can promise that Park Tower is the safest place in Manhattan," Jin said quietly. "More secure than any police station. My son lives there. Do you think I would allow any danger near him?" He had a point. Eliza bit her lip, thinking, "I need time to consider this." "Of course." Jin pulled out his phone and typed something. "Why don't you see MJ first, then decide?" Before Eliza could respond, the office door opened. MJ burst through, his face lighting up like the sun when he saw her. "Miss Eliza!" He ran across the room and threw himself into her arms. Eliza caught him, her heart melting all over again. "Hey, sweetheart, how are you?" "I missed you." MJ pulled back to look at her face, his hands on her cheeks. "Appa said you might come work for us. Please say yes, please." Over MJ's head, Eliza met Jin's eyes. The man was watching them with an expression that made her breath catch, hunger, longing, and something that looked almost like hope. Not for himself, she realized. For his son. This was manipulation, clearly. Bringing MJ here, letting the boy's pure joy wear down her resistance. She should be angry. She should leave. But MJ was hugging her again, and she could feel how thin he was, how desperately he clung to her. This child needed her, and maybe, just maybe, she needed him too. "I'll do it," she heard herself say. "I'll take the job." MJ's whoop of joy echoed through the office. Jin's smile was small but genuine, transforming his face once more. "Thank you," he said quietly. "You won't regret this." But as Eliza held MJ and met Jin's intense gaze over the boy's head, she wondered if that was true. She'd just agreed to enter the world of the Dragon of Manhattan, and the question that haunted her was simple. Would she ever be able to leave? 2 months transformed Eliza's world completely. She'd moved into Park Tower, not into the penthouse itself, but into a guest suite on the floor below. The space was larger than her entire Harlem apartment, with floor-to-ceiling windows, a modern bathroom with a soaking tub and a king-sized bed that felt like sleeping on a cloud. She had her own key, her own security clearance, and instructions to treat the space as her own, but she spent most of her time in the penthouse with MJ. The change in the boy was remarkable. He smiled now, real smiles that reached his eyes. He talked constantly, his English improving daily as he chatted about school, his friends, the book Eliza had read to him the night before. He ate better, slept better, laughed more. The scared, hollow-eyed child from Grand Central was slowly disappearing, replaced by a happy 9-year-old who knew he was loved. And Jin. Jin was a constant, confusing presence. He worked long hours, disappearing into his office for meetings that made the air in the penthouse feel heavy with unspoken danger. But he made time for MJ now, breakfast together every morning, reading together before bed when he was home. Eliza watched father and son growing closer, watched Jin learning to be present, to be soft, to be more than the dragon. She also noticed Jin watching her. His eyes followed her around the penthouse. When she made breakfast, when she helped MJ with homework, when she laughed at something the boy said. The intensity of his gaze made her skin prickle with awareness. Sometimes she'd look up and catch him staring, and he wouldn't look away. He'd just hold her eyes with that dark, unfathomable expression until she was the one who had to turn aside, heart racing. It was a Thursday evening when things shifted. MJ had fallen asleep early after a field trip, exhausted and happy. Eliza had carried him to bed, tucked him in, and was heading back to her suite when she found Jin in the kitchen. He stood by the counter, that white shirt with 4 buttons undone, sleeves rolled up, the dragon on his neck visible in the soft light. He was pouring whiskey into a glass, his movements precise and controlled. He looked up when she entered. "He's asleep?" Eliza nodded. Out like a light. They went to the Natural History Museum today. He talked about dinosaurs for an hour straight. A small smile touched Jin's lips. He loves museums. His mother did too. The smile faded. I should take him more often. You're doing better, Eliza said quietly. I see the difference. He sees it too. Jin lifted his glass, studying her over the rim. Because of you. Because you're trying, and she corrected. I just help. You do more than help. He set down the glass and moved around the counter toward her. You've changed everything. This penthouse used to be a mausoleum. Beautiful, cold, empty. Now it's... He paused, searching for words. Now it feels like a home. The compliment warmed her, but it also made her uncomfortable. That's my job, is it? Jin stopped a few feet away, close enough that she could smell his cologne, sandalwood and something darker, richer. Taking care of MJ is your job, but the way you arrange flowers on the dining table, the way you hum while you cook, the way you've made this sterile space feel warm. His eyes held hers. That's not a job, that's who you are. Eliza's pulse quickened. This felt dangerous, not physically but emotionally. There was something in Jin's voice, in his eyes, that went beyond employer and employee, beyond gratitude for helping his son. I should go, she said, but she didn't move. Neither did Jin. Why do you always run from me? The directness of the question stunned her. I don't... Yes, you do. Every time we're alone, you find an excuse to leave. Every time I get close, you step back. He moved closer, and this time she did step back, her shoulders hitting the wall. He stopped, giving her space but trapping her with his presence. Why? Because this... She gestured between them. This isn't appropriate. I work for you. I take care of your son. There are boundaries. Fuck boundaries. The curse was soft, almost gentle, but it sent electricity down her spine. I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since the night you brought MJ home. The way you looked at me, not with fear, but with challenge. The way you held my son like he was precious. The way you walked out of my building like a queen, refusing my money, refusing my power, taking nothing but your own dignity. Eliza's breath caught. Jin, do you know what that did to me? He braced one hand on the wall beside her head, not touching her but surrounding her with his presence. I'm used to people who want things from me. Money, protection, power. You wanted nothing. You just cared. About a stranger's child because it was right. His voice dropped lower. I don't think I've met anyone like you in my entire life. She should push him away, should maintain professional distance, should remember that he was a dangerous man in a dangerous world. But she couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything but stare into those dark eyes and feel herself drowning. "This is a bad idea," she whispered. "Probably." His gaze dropped to her lips. "Tell me to stop and I will. Tell me to back away, and I'll never cross this line again." The words stuck in her throat. She knew she should say them, knew this could only end in complications and heartbreak, but she couldn't force them out, couldn't deny the heat building between them, couldn't ignore the way her body leaned toward his despite her mind's protests. Jin saw her hesitation and smiled, a real smile, warm and devastating. "You can't say it, can you?" "This is insane," she breathed. "You're my boss. You're a criminal?" He finished. "Say it. I won't be offended. I was going to say complicated." That surprised him. He laughed, a sound she'd rarely heard, rich and genuine. "Complicated, that's diplomatic." "Jin." She found her voice, found her strength. "If I stay here, if we do this, what happens to MJ? He's finally happy, finally has stability. If this goes wrong, if I have to leave—" "You won't have to leave." His expression turned serious. "Whatever happens between us, if anything happens, MJ comes first. Always. If you wanted to stay and work with him, but nothing more with me, I would respect that. Your position is not contingent on anything except your relationship with my son." The sincerity in his voice steadied her. "Promise me." "I promise." He raised his free hand, hesitating, then gently tucked a loose curl behind her ear. The touch was electric, intimate, reverent. "I won't push you, Eliza, but I won't lie either. I want you. I want to know everything about you, your past, your dreams, what makes you laugh, what makes you cry. I want to fall asleep to the sound of your voice and wake up to your smile." His thumb traced her jawline. "And I want to kiss you until neither of us can remember why we thought this was a bad idea." Heat flooded through her, pooling low in her belly. "Jin." "But not until you're ready." He dropped his hand and stepped back, giving her space to breathe, to think. "Take your time. I'm not going anywhere." Eliza fled to her suite, her heart pounding. She locked the door and leaned against it, pressing her hands to her flushed cheeks. What was she doing? She'd come here for MJ, to help a lonely child, not to fall for his dangerously attractive, emotionally complicated, criminally connected father. But as she lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, she couldn't deny the truth. She was already falling. Had been falling since the moment Jin had held his son with such desperate love. Since he'd looked at her with those dark eyes, and seen not just what she could do for him, but who she was. The question wasn't whether she was falling. The question was, would she let herself land? And if she did, would Jin catch her? Or would they both crash? Everything changed on a rainy Friday night. Eliza had been working for Jin for 3 months. 3 months of watching MJ blossom into a confident, happy child. 3 months of carefully maintained boundaries with Jin, even as the tension between them built, like a storm waiting to break. 3 months of pretending she didn't feel his eyes on her, didn't think about his words late at night, didn't want what she couldn't have. That Friday, MJ was at a sleepover, his first ever. He'd been so excited, clutching his backpack and hugging Eliza 3 times before leaving. "I'll tell you everything tomorrow, Miss Eliza. Everything." Which left Eliza alone in the penthouse for the first time. Jin was supposed to be working late, wouldn't be back until after midnight. She'd made herself dinner, curled up on the couch with a book, and tried not to feel the weight of the empty space around her. Then Jin came home early. She heard the door first, then his footsteps. He appeared in the living room, and she immediately knew something was wrong. His white shirt was stained with something dark, blood. His hair was disheveled, and there was a cut above his eyebrow. But it was his eyes that stopped her heart, wild, dangerous, barely controlled. "Jin!" She dropped her book and rushed to him. "What happened? Are you hurt?" He caught her wrists as she reached for him, his grip gentle but firm. "It's not my blood." Those 4 words should have terrified her, should have sent her running. Instead, all she could think was, "He's okay, he's alive, he's here." "Let me clean you up," she said softly. Jin stared at her, something shifting in his expression. "You're not afraid." "Should I be?" "Yes." The word was raw. "You should be terrified. You should run." "This—" He gestured to his blood-stained clothes. "This is who I am, Eliza. This is what I do. I hurt people. I destroy people. I'm the monster your mother warned you about. I never had a mother to warn me about anything, Eliza said quietly. Foster care, remember? I learned to judge people by their actions, not their reputations. And your actions? She stepped closer, looking up into his haunted eyes. You take care of your son. You're learning to be present for him. You gave me a job when you didn't have to. You keep your word. You're honest about who you are, even when it would be easier to lie. She reached up, gently touching the cut above his eyebrow. Whatever you did tonight, I'm guessing it was to protect someone. Probably MJ. Probably us. Jin's control finally broke. He pulled her against him, his arms wrapping around her like steel bands. His face buried in her hair, and she felt him shaking, this powerful, dangerous man shaking in her arms. A rival tried to get to me through MJ, he whispered. Sent men to his school. They didn't know about the security I have in place. They didn't know I have cameras everywhere, people watching every entrance. His voice hardened. They didn't know I would burn the world to ash before I let anyone touch my son. Eliza held him tighter. MJ's safe. Because I stopped them. Permanently. He pulled back to look at her. Do you understand what I'm telling you? I killed them tonight with my own hands, because they threatened my son. She should be horrified, should feel disgust, fear, revulsion, but all she felt was fierce, protective certainty. Good. Jin stared at her, stunned. Good. They tried to hurt MJ. They tried to hurt that sweet, innocent child who's just learning to be happy again. Her voice shook with emotion. So yes, good. I hope they suffered. Something in Jin's eyes cracked open, a vulnerability so raw it took her breath away. You really mean that? I love that little boy, Eliza admitted. I would do anything to protect him, anything. And I'm grateful, so grateful, that he has a father who feels the same way. Jin cupped her face in his hands, and for the first time since she'd met him, she saw him completely unguarded. I'm falling in love with you, he breathed. I fight it every day. Tell myself it's gratitude or attraction or anything but what it is. But I can't lie anymore. I look at you with my son and I see everything I ever wanted. Family, home, peace. His thumb brushed her cheek. I look at you and I see the future I never thought I could have. Tears pricked Eliza's eyes. Jin, tell me to stop, he whispered. Tell me you don't feel it too. Tell me I'm alone in this. You're not alone. She reached up, covering his hands with hers. I'm falling too. Have been falling since you held your son like he was your whole world. Since you looked at me like I wasn't just another employee. Since you promised me MJ would always come first. A tear escaped, and he caught it with his thumb. I'm terrified. Your world is dangerous, and I don't know if I can survive it. But I can't walk away from you, can't walk away from MJ, can't walk away from this. Then don't. Jin leaned down, his forehead resting against hers. Stay. Be with me. Be with us. Let me love you the way you deserve to be loved. What if something happens to you? The fear clawed at her throat. What if one day you don't come home? Then you'll take care of MJ, keep him safe, love him like you already do. His voice was absolute. I've already updated my will. If anything happens to me, everything goes to you. The penthouse. The legitimate businesses. Enough money to keep you both comfortable for life. You'll be his guardian. His mother in every way that matters. Eliza's breath caught. You did that? Already? The day after you agreed to take care of him. Because I saw the way you loved him, and I knew that you would protect him with your life if it came to it. His smile was soft, sad, just like I would protect both of you with mine. That broke her. Eliza surged up on her toes and kissed him. Jin made a sound low in his throat. Surprise, relief, hunger, and kissed her back. His arms wrapped around her, lifting her against him as he deepened the kiss. It was everything she'd imagined, and nothing like she'd expected. Fierce and gentle, desperate and reverent, claiming and surrendering all at once. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Jin rested his forehead against hers. Stay with me tonight. Yes. She kissed him again, softer this time. But first, let me clean you up. In his bathroom, she carefully washed the blood from his hands, cleaned the cut above his eyebrow, helped him out of his ruined shirt. He watched her the entire time with an expression that made her feel cherished, treasured, loved. When she finished, he pulled her close again. "I need you to know something," he said quietly. "The threat to MJ. It's over, completely. I made sure everyone in my world understands that touching you or MJ means death. Not quick death, not merciful death, just death." His eyes held hers. "You're both under my protection now, the strongest protection I can offer. How can you be sure? Because I made an example tonight, one so brutal, so absolute, that no one will ever try again." His voice was cold, factual. "I'm not a good man, Eliza, but I'm a man who keeps his people safe, and you and MJ, you're my people now." She should be frightened by the cold calculation in his voice, but she wasn't, because she understood now, truly understood what Jin was. He was the dragon on his neck made flesh, dangerous, fierce, protective. He would kill for his family without hesitation, and she and MJ were his family now. "I love you," she whispered. "God help me, I love you." Jin's eyes closed, and when they opened again they were shining. "Say it again." I love you and MJ and this life we're building together. I love your fierce protection and your gentle heart and the way you're learning to be the father MJ needs." She cupped his face. "I love all of you, the dragon and the man, the danger and the tenderness, all of it." Jin kissed her then, deep and slow and thorough, like he was memorizing the taste of her, the feel of her, the reality that she was his. When he finally pulled back, his voice was rough with emotion. "We tell MJ tomorrow, together. What if he's not ready? What if—" "He already asked me if you could be his new mom." Jin smiled at her shocked expression. "Last week, we were eating dinner and he just asked. Said you make him happy. Said you make me happy. Said he wants you to stay forever." His smile widened. "I told him I was working on it." Eliza laughed through her tears. "That little matchmaker. He knows what he wants. He gets that from me." Jin lifted her into his arms, carrying her toward his bedroom. "Tonight you're mine. Tomorrow we become a family. And every day after that, I'm going to love you until you forget what life was like without me. Promise?" "Promise." He set her down gently in his room, then cupped her face and kissed her with devastating tenderness. "I've spent 9 years building an empire. But you and MJ, you're my kingdom, and I'll protect it with everything I am." As Jin's door closed behind them, Eliza thought about the scared woman she'd been just 3 months ago, working a dead-end job, surviving but not living, alone and exhausted. She thought about a little boy crying in a train station, asking a stranger to take him home. She thought about impossible choices and unexpected love and families built not from blood, but from choice, and she knew with absolute certainty that she was finally home. The morning sun streamed through the windows of the penthouse, painting everything in gold. Eliza stood in the kitchen making breakfast, while MJ sat at the counter doing his homework, his tongue poking out in concentration. Jin emerged from the bedroom, hair damp from the shower, wearing that signature white shirt with 4 buttons undone. He walked straight to Eliza, wrapped his arms around her waist and kissed her neck. "Good morning, beautiful." "You gross," MJ giggled. "You guys are always kissing." "Get used to it, buddy," Jin said, but he was smiling as he moved to ruffle his son's hair. "How's the homework coming?" "Almost done. Can we go to the park after?" "Absolutely." Jin caught Eliza's eye and smiled. That real smile that transformed his face, the one he only showed to them. Later, as they walked through Central Park, Jin pushing MJ on the swings while Eliza took photos on her phone, she marveled at how her life had changed. The ring on her left hand caught the light. Jin had proposed a month ago, right here in this park, with MJ as his assistant, holding the ring box. They would marry in the spring. A small ceremony, just family. MJ would be the ring bearer, bursting with pride. As Jin met her eyes across the playground, mouthing, "I love you," Eliza thought about that night at Grand Central. A scared little boy asking, "Can you take me home?" She had, and in doing so, she'd found her own home, her own family, her own impossible, beautiful, perfect love. The Dragon of Manhattan had found his queen, and they would reign together, protecting their kingdom of 3, forever.